everyone, Dino Monoxelos here with another tips and tricks for you. In this video we're going to talk about effects loops. Now effects loops have been used on many styles of amps over the years, but most recently predominantly on bass amps. When we talk about Ampeg amps, effects loops are used on just about every single one of our models, all the way down to the little BA108. Now for those of you that don't know or use an effects loop, let's explain exactly what an effects loop is. An effects loop basically allows you to run one or more effects through a separate loop signal while being able to keep your clean signal unaffected going into your amp. Now there are two different types of effects loops, series and parallel. Series basically inserts your effects signal chain between the preamp and the power amp, whereas a parallel loop splits the signal and allows a clean signal to pass through completely unaffected, while a second signal is sent through the effects chain. This allows you to, on some models such as the 7 Pro and PF500, to blend the amount of effects signal you want. But there are pros and cons to both though. And in some cases, depending on the effect, one might be preferred over the other. In the case of some effects, such as a compressor or an envelope filter, which are more dependent on a direct velocity input, you might want a series loop. Whereas on a time-changing effect, such as a delay or a chorus, a parallel loop is nice to be able to blend in the amount of effect you want. In the case of the 7 Pro and the PF500, turning the effects mix all the way clockwise will result in the loop acting more as a series loop. So, let's take a look at how we connect our effects to an effects loop. Effects send means just that. You're sending your signal to the input of the effects pedal or processor. Now in this case I'm using a delay pedal. Now to come back to the amp, I simply come out of the delay pedal back to the return on the effects loop. Now I can adjust the amount of delay I want simply by turning the effects blend control from full counterclockwise to full clockwise. If I want to add more pedals, I can just come out of that first delay pedal into another pedal, such as let's say this chorus pedal, then out of that chorus pedal back into the return of the effects loop. And I can daisy chain as many pedals as I like in this way. Now, one thing to remember though, always use a shielded patch or guitar cable to connect everything. Don't use speaker cables because they're unshielded and can introduce noise into your signal chain. Always use a guitar cable. So why should you use an effects loop instead of just putting all these effects into your signal chain going into your amp? Well, in most cases where you might be using one or two pedals, you might just be fine putting them in your signal chain, especially if your effects are true bypass and don't hinder your signal quality. If you plan on using effects processors or large pedal boards though, you may want to consider using the effects loop so that you can preserve a good, clean, quality signal from your bass to the amp while still being able to blend in as many effects as you want. Of course, this requires the need for another cable, but trust me, the returns are worth it. Okay, sorry for the bad pun. Anyway, I hope this sheds some light on the subject of effects loops. If you haven't tried incorporating some effects into your rig, give them a shot. They might just inspire you to create some new sounds and hopefully create some great new music. You never know. As always, folks, my name's Dino Monoxelos. Play more bass.